Welcome to another thrilling edition of the B2M2 podcast. Joined by Mitchell Machtinger, I'm your host, Michael Hoad. Well, that was easily one of the worst weeks I've ever witnessed on Big Brother or Big Brother Canada. Did you enjoy any of that week, Mitch?
It didn't even count. This was the absolute worst week in Big Brother history. It was so trash. They didn't even show anything. And to top it all off, even after the supposed eviction episode, they didn't even show us who won the new HOH. It was just a hot mess, as they say.
Just a trash week all around. But even though the week was full of it, we promised to have no filler on our show. So we begin the week after Christine's Boo Fest, and Derek says that he's not surprised that she was booed that hard, and he says that she was rubbing him the wrong way the whole summer. Everyone was in awe of the boos and saying how they kept the right person in Victoria over Christine.
I knew that they didn't like Christine and that a lot of the people watching the show didn't like Christine, but I still wasn't expecting that much of a reaction.
No.
I guess it was the whole Cody thing. I think it rubbed, everybody the wrong way.
I guess so. So now we move on to a very, 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 very common theme of the week, and it's discussion of the button, paranoia about the button. The whole week is just centered around the button, reminiscent of Lost, when they have to push the button in the hatch. But Frankie starts giving Caleb grief for wanting to push the button, but then Frankie admits that he really wants to press it. Derek, not surprisingly, doesn't want to push it because he says he's played a flawless game and he doesn't want anything to throw a wrench in that. This is just brutal start. It's just all filler. What did you think of this?
I don't know. I mean, you never want to press the button. Obviously, no good can really come of it. And I was just surprised, and I think everybody else was surprised, how, quickly they decided to push it. They probably thought, maybe they'll, wait 1 week, wait a couple of days, and then some person's going to sneak in the middle of the night and press the button, and there's going to be some big mystery and, all this controversy about who pushed the button and, what's going to happen. But literally, as soon as they had the opportunity to push it, they all just pushed it.
Yeah. So it was right after the HOH competition, and I hope you like this HOH comp because you get to see it again next week. You had to transfer these rubber balls that they called seeds from a basket onto the end of your shovel, and if you fall off your shovel or if a ball hits the ground, you have to start over again. So Frankie ends up winning. Caleb was really close, but he ended up dropping a ball when he only had 3 left to transfer. So Frankie wins, and then after the competition, they all go inside and decide to simultaneously press the button as a show of solidarity. So as soon as
they go push the button, and then the lights go out, and it's because Cody turned off the light.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that there's light switches in the house that they can control and turn the lights on and off. I just always thought that production controlled when the lights were on and when they were off.
True.
So that was pretty funny for me to see. But then so Frankie wins HOH, and he's like, oh, it might be time to take a shot at them. And I'm like, who else is left?
You're gonna have to, bud.
Yeah, literally, there's no other way. You're gonna have to put somebody up.
So once the button gets pushed, it's a countdown to Wednesday's episode, and they are surprised and wonder what it's going to be. So after this, Derek goes over to Victoria and starts playing to her ego like he's done with Caleb in the past, says how she's the best girl player of the season and the most memorable girl of the season, and Victoria is just over the moon about this, and she is loving Derek. Derek has her in his back pocket, which we'll talk about later on too. So then more filler happens as fan favorites Jeff and Jordan come into the house. I'm not going to lie, I fast forwarded this. I had no interest. I knew it was going to happen. Jeff proposes to Jordan and she says yes.
Yeah, they're like, oh, and Jeff and Jordan are coming back into the house, like in the preview for the episode. And then they show him proposing to her. So they ruined the whole surprise within the first minute of the episode.
And didn't it? Like, I was fast forwarding for a while. Like, did you watch it?
It would probably, I don't remember. I had like half, if I did, it was like half paying attention.
It was a lengthy segment.
It was a long segment.
So after that's all said and done, we get to the nomination ceremony, and Frankie ends up nominating Victoria, no surprise. But then, since he has to nominate one of his alliance members, he puts up Cody. And that was that episode. I think that was hands down the worst episode of the season, and it just set the tone for an awful week. So after the nomination ceremony, Frankie reinforces that Victoria is the target. Big move from Frankie. He wants to take the boys to the end. And Derek now has to choose sort of between Cody and Victoria. He says that Cody is more valuable to him, obviously, because Cody can actually win competitions to keep him safe. Then we get Frankie saying that if Victoria somehow manages to pull out a veto win, he would be fine with sending Cody home because he's the low man on Frankie's totem pole. Then, funny moment from Frankie, I don't remember who he's talking to, but he tells them that if Victoria ends up making it to the final two, that he's voting for her because he'd just love to hear her speech. What do you think she would actually say in her final two speech?
Okay, first off, I have a question for you. Is this girl like delusional? She, in all her diary room sessions, she's going off about like how she's this great player and like she just does great in all these competitions and stuff. But I don't even know like what she would say. She's like, "Oh, I'm the last girl standing. Like I beat all these boys or whatever." I think that's what she would say, but none of it is really true.
Do you think that perhaps it's just a really like bad edit on her and she might be doing more than we think?
No, because I think they would have showed something. And like I get that like sometimes people like have to fit into this role or whatever, but the fact that everybody else in the house like knows that she hasn't done anything means that she obviously hasn't talked game with like anybody, right? Yeah. So it's like she obviously hasn't been playing the game, and they know it.
There's a compilation after she says how great a player she is. There's a compilation of all of her game moves and her competition performances, and it's just like the biggest fail compilation of all time. It's absolutely hilarious. But if she gets to the final two, good on her.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just the smartest move to make for anybody.
So, Caleb again goes to Cody and admits that the thought of evicting Cody did cross his mind. And again, this just shows Caleb being way too loyal and like he doesn't hide anything. It's getting pretty ridiculous. Like at this stage, you shouldn't be going around telling someone, "Oh, I thought of evicting you." Like it's just not smart.
Yeah, but I don't think that changed anything for Cody. I think Cody's like gung ho with Derek.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's Frankie and Caleb and versus like Cody and Derek pretty much. I don't know if Frankie and Caleb realize that they like sort of has to stick together.
Yeah, I don't think Caleb especially realizes that, but and then there's an interesting scenario. Derek and Cody have their hitman conversation. Derek is telling Cody that if Derek ends up winning veto, he would potentially pull down Cody and force Frankie to nominate Caleb, and then they could evict Caleb. And this late in the game, if you have a chance to take out that big of a competitor, I think you have to do it. Like,
tell that to Frankie.
I know.
And Cody and Caleb. Tell it to all of them.
I mean, it was a very smart scenario that Derek proposed there. So on to the meaningless veto competition. It's one of the ones that gets played one person at a time. And they were shown pictures of 3 house guests' faces mashed into one. They had to go and identify which 3 house guests made up that picture.
this was actually tough. I mean, just looking at it from the outside,
it was
some of those like they banged it out in like 8 minutes, but I feel like it would have taken me a long time to do this one. But I guess they see each other, like only each other every day, right? So it's easier for them.
Yeah, and I mean, like the people that got voted out early, I know Joey, hers was obvious with like the blue hair.
Yeah.
Um,
but I mean, they also stare at that memory wall like 24/7 too.
Definitely. So Frankie ends up winning. He's just the king of the veto at this point, and Derek loses by like 20 seconds, which is too bad. I would have liked to have seen if they had made the move on Caleb. And no surprise, Victoria comes last.
Yeah, like Derek and Frankie finished faster combined than she did on her own. But I don't know, just this whole week, I didn't even really like super pay attention to what was going on because I knew that none of it mattered in the end.
Yeah.
It was tough to take it seriously.
I feel like they should have kept us in the dark as well as to what the twist was.
Yeah, for sure. But then people would have been like, oh, like they're just trying to save whatever. But I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it would have made the week matter more, I guess, in our minds.
Yeah. So now that Frankie's winning all these competitions, Cody is regretting his decision to not try and backdoor Frankie in previous weeks. And Frankie, maybe with this newfound power, is saying that he's having thoughts of getting rid of one of the guys. But it's really, at the end of the day, not his decision unless it comes down to a tie. Because he doesn't vote. So, I don't know. Then Derek takes Frankie into the storage room and now starts playing to Frankie's ego. He starts bowing down to him, like gets down on knees on the floor and like bows down. Says that Frankie is now one of the legends of the game. But I don't know, Frankie, if anyone in the house can sort of see through Derek, I think it's Frankie. Yeah, I think he's on to the type of game Derek's playing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I mean, like we've seen with Derek, like once people find out sort of who, like what his deal is, or like how he's playing, like we saw with Bonnie and then Nicole, that they just want to get rid of him. But I mean, Frankie was his number one target to begin with.
Yeah. So speaking of Derek and Frankie, on to Team America. And I was actually surprised that the rodent option was the one that ended up being voted for.
Yeah, I think the fast would have been more interesting, I guess, to see how they actually would try and pull that off.
So Frankie tells us that over the summer they've had like ant problems, fly problems. So he thinks they'll be able to pull it off with this rat in the house. And especially because since Donnie's gone, everyone goes to bed at like 1 o'clock anyways. So they're all in the kitchen and Frankie spots this fake mouse and Derek is right there to back him up on it. And Frankie's like acting
top notch.
That initial spot of the mouse, holy crap. Like I would have bought that for sure.
Yeah, it's like they were like Frankie and Derek were looking at each other the whole, like in the kitchen the whole time, trying to like figure out like when are we gonna like start this thing. But he did a really good job.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. And the funniest part is Cody is just freaking out, like standing on the chairs.
Oh, I would like if I was in there, like I would do exactly what Cody did. Like I wouldn't touch the ground for a second.
And then
I'd walk on chairs, like climb from the ceiling. Like no way, zero chance.
Good to know. And then just to get it to the next level, they bring Caleb into the catching process because Caleb always seems to go all out on these hunting missions. So Caleb ends up building a trap for the rat, and the mission's successful. They stayed up till, what was it, like 7 in the morning or something? I think it was 6:30, 7.
Didn't they have to do 24 hours?
I think this one was just, no, the fast was 24 hours, but this one was keep them up all night.
Okay.
Like the little checkmark thing came up on the screen, so they got.
Yeah, I saw that. They're like, oh, it's 7 a.m. I'm like, didn't this have to go on for 24 hours? But no, that makes more sense.
So back to game talk. Frankie starts boasting to himself and the cameras about his 9 competition wins, and realizes that he's painted a huge target on himself. So he starts wondering whether or not to take Victoria down and that would ensure that one of the bigger threats would go home.
I just feel like when counting competition wins this season, it's a bit of like an asterisk kind of thing, because you've had double the chances to win HOH than anybody else would have in another season.
Right, yeah.
So,
yeah,
like...
definitely need the asterisk.
Frankie won, like, whatever, like 4 HOHs, but, like, really he just won maybe 2.
Mm. But he doesn't end up using the veto, keeping the detonators strong.
I was actually debating what Frankie should have done with the veto. At first I was like, wow, he's an idiot for not putting up Caleb. But then I was like, oh, he can't play in the next HOH, so he's going to be everyone's target anyways. But it's like, what does he have to lose? Like, he knows he's everyone's number one target, so he may as well try and get Caleb or Cody out. But then he'll also need... I feel like he'll obviously need one of them in the Final Four when it gets to that point to sort of pair up against the other half, however the lines divide. So, I mean, it could have gone either way, but my gut was like, you should have put up Caleb.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But in the start of the Wednesday's episode, not Thursday, Frankie justifies his decision. He says he wants Victoria out now since everyone wants to take her to the final 2. And if Frankie ever finds himself up on the block next to Victoria, he's going to be the one who goes home. So, I don't know. It sort of makes sense, but he should have gotten rid of a bigger competitor. Not that any of it would have mattered anyways, but... So, Victoria is just resigned to the fact that she's leaving. She knows that these guys form something early on in the game. Derek, of course, is the one there to be the shoulder to cry on, just to really ensure that she'll have his back when she goes to the jury. Then there's more button talk, and Derek then goes to Frankie and tells him that Derek thinks Cody, Caleb, and Frankie all have an equal chance of winning. So that's starting to put doubt into Frankie's mind that if he goes with Caleb or Cody to the end, he'd have a harder time winning. But Frankie says he doesn't buy it. Thinks, well, he knows Derek has a good chance. And, yeah, again, Frankie's just the one guy who can sort of see through Derek's act. Back to Derek and Victoria, they start to stage a fight to convince other people that Derek won't have her jury vote. And, like, Victoria just seems so down for this plan. Like, she knows she's going home. And she just, at this point, wants Derek to win, I think, more than even she wants to win. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, Derek told Victoria to, like, go campaign to Caleb to, like, fight for her, like, life or whatever. And then she just sat there.
So Victoria takes her act to Frankie. I thought it was pretty awful. Like, she had these fake tears, but, I mean, it seemed like a really bad act to me, but it brought tears to Frankie's eyes, and then Frankie tells Derek how mad Victoria is at him. Like, I don't know. I don't
know, man. Like, fake crying is hard. Not everybody can do it. It's like, you have to respect the talent to, like, be able to fake cry on, like, command. Because I probably couldn't do it. I couldn't do it there. Like, it's tougher than you think.
Can't say I've ever tried, but...
No, like, I haven't tried, but, like, I just know that, like, I can't, like, just cry on command.
Alright, so props to Victoria, then.
Yeah.
So then we get a jury check-in, and some of those holas that have been going Derek's way, we heard one of them from Zach and one of them from Donnie, which was pretty funny. So then we transfer over to the jury house, and we see that it's Zach's birthday, and they got him a new pink hat that Victoria had shredded up. But I thought this one was a little more of an orangey tinge to it. Did you think it was pink?
It was light. It wasn't like a bold pink like the other one was. This had a bit of a lighter tone. But I think Zach was still happy either way.
Oh, he was stoked to get that. And everyone in the jury house is...
He needs a haircut, though.
He needs a haircut?
Even this first day he went to the house, like, his hair was super long.
Was there a barber in the house this year? Like, someone that was taking...
Well, someone had, like, clippers or, like, a razor or whatever.
I'm just trying to think of who it was.
Because Cody's hair has definitely been, like, he got a haircut. Caleb obviously buzzed his head.
Yeah.
And Derek and Frankie. I think Frankie has like a mohawk now or something. So it's someone has something.
So all the jurors are well aware of Derek's puppet master type game, which I didn't know if they would be, since it's all behind the scenes work and not so overt. But it's good to know that they are aware of the type of game he's playing.
So I think it's like once they compare notes, they realize that they all got played by Derek.
Yeah.
I know this is what Nick was saying when he was on the podcast with me a couple weeks ago. He's like, nobody is like checking in with each other to see sort of what's going on. Like, no one's confirming with each other to see like who, like comparing notes, that kind of thing. So now they're in jury and they all realize that they got played by Derek.
There's also a really, really awkward reaction to Christine's arrival.
Oh, that was super awkward.
No one got up and hugged her at all, or even was looking at her. It was just brutal.
Like, they just don't like her. I've never seen this kind of, like, I'm going to try and use a big word, ostracization. I used a regular word, like an ostracize. I don't know if that's actually a word, ostracization.
If it's not, you just created a word.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, it was super awkward for her. I felt kind of bad. But they obviously don't like her.
So, back to the actual house. Right as they go to start voting to evict, the reset happens. So they're all like, whoa, oh my god. And they have to go out to the backyard. And it's the same HOH competition. And Derek is forced to sit out once again. I didn't know it was literally going to be the exact same competition. How about you?
Yeah, that was a bit of a dud. I mean, they're obviously trying to live up to the whole rewind thing. But having to watch the same competition, although it looks like this time it went by a bit faster because they obviously know some sort of technique or whatever.
Yeah. And Cody, this is actually pretty funny. Cody has to go back in the dinosaur outfit.
Yeah.
That was great.
Poor guy.
So as they're prepping for that, Julie has to sit down with Dan Giesling, and it's not as long. With this week, normally these things aren't very long, but I thought they could have stretched this one out longer. Everyone loves Dan. And basically all he said is, first of all, he's surprised the guys haven't turned on each other yet. Second of all, he thinks Derek's playing a phenomenal game, and he hopes that Derek ends up winning. So that was the gist of Dan's conversation. We also
he's like the BB spokesperson. Like he was on last year, I think, and then he just seems to be on some sort of special role every year. They bring him back for his analysis or whatever.
Yeah. I love that guy, though.
Yeah, he's great.
And Julie tells us that the veto challenge is also going to be the same. I'm wondering how this is going to work because, you would think everyone would remember the face combinations.
I think they'll make new combinations.
You would hope so, right? But
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, these guys are going to just finish it in 3 minutes.
I wonder how long it would take Victoria if it was the same.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it would actually take her longer.
Very good possibility. She might think that they're trying to trick her and keep changing her answers and stuff.
She's too smart for Big Brother.
And finally, we have next week's agenda. So Sunday, the jurors return for some reason. Don't know why. And
I don't like it.
The new
they already came back when they voted, or when Nicole came back into the house.
Yeah.
They're just trying to milk these last 2 weeks. It's like they have so much time to kill, and they're trying to figure out ways to make it interesting. It's like they almost underbooked themselves, even though they had 2 double evictions, and now they're trying to scramble and fill in all this airtime.
So Sunday that happens and the HOH is crowned. Tuesday there's a veto and eviction. Wednesday there's an eviction, and Friday is a special episode that you don't want to miss. I'm thinking.
So Wednesday's pretty much a live eviction episode.
Yeah.
All the things in one.
And yeah, that's it. So.
Yeah, what do you think's going to happen on the Friday episode?
I think it's just going to be like never before seen footage that we don't need to watch. I don't know.
As long as it's, I would rather watch that than like a recap episode where it's like, here's what happened week 1 and week 2, and like I don't care about that. Like when they used to show that on Survivor, I would just skip the whole week.
Yeah. Me too.
Those are the worst episodes. But
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would watch like never before seen footage kind of thing.
Okay, so surprises and disappointments we are nixing from this episode of the podcast. I don't think we had any surprises, and everything was a disappointment this week. So we're going to replace that segment with something we've been meaning to do for a while now, but haven't had the time to do. We're going to rate the Houseguests intro poses in the theme song. So, starting off with Amber. What's your grade for Amber?
I gave her a 9 out of 10. I think she didn't just stand there. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to come up with some sort of, like, justification for, like, giving all these rankings. But it was more entertaining than some of the other ones, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was a sexy move, and I think she must have done this pose to Caleb at some point in the house. Just to get Caleb even more hooked on her. Zach, I'm giving a 7.5. He did the little brush the dirt off his shoulder move. I think it's a solid performance, and it reflects his personality. What do you have for Zach?
I gave him a 7 because I was unaware of the half mark. I think he was obviously cast as like this like bro kind of thing with like pop collars and like these polo shirts and stuff. So the whole dirt off your shoulder thing, I guess, fits into that. So I gave him a 7.
All right, what about Joey?
I think we've seen combined airtime with her, like more in the intros for every episode than we saw like in the whole house. I don't know. I gave her a 7.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't the worst. There were some worse ones in like the house, but it was like she's like, oh, like come get at me or whatever. So whatever. I gave her a 7.
Interesting. I gave her a 3.
Oh man, you went low.
I did. I was just not a fan of the move at all. But I guess we didn't really get to know her well enough, so I don't know. I just was not a fan of that move.
What would you have had her done?
I didn't know. I don't know her personality well enough. I don't know.
Would you have done like a spin move and then she comes back as like Alex on the other side?
That would have been sick. That would have been.
Reshot it after her eviction.
That would have been awesome. All right, Donnie, I'm giving a 5. He does a little wave and smile at the camera. I think it's a decent move. He's not making any enemies with it, but I think he could have done better. How do you have Donnie?
I gave Donnie a 10 out of 10.
Wow!
The one and only perfect grade I have is for Donnie. The smile is just like, wow, that's like the most infectious smile I've ever seen. He just this friendly like handyman next door, like, and I love the wave. Like, how can you not love that? It's just the greatest one. How can you not like it?
What about Pow Pow?
Paola just wants to dance, man. Like, she just wants to have a good time. I gave her a 7. She'd probably like bust those moves out like in the club, whatever. So 7 for Paola.
I gave Paola the 6. I thought she was trying a little too hard. I understand that she just wants.
Oh man, okay, you want to try a little too hard? Get down to Frankie, and then we'll.
Whoa! We'll get there in a sec.
Yeah.
Okay. Derek, I've got Derek with a 7. He's just throwing the ones in the air. I think it's a simple but effective move, and he is in fact number 1. So it's fitting that he did that pose.
I gave Derek the lowest rating. I gave him a 5. It's like, what are you? You're just standing there.
He's not making any enemies.
Are we supposed to like? I don't know. It's just like okay, like cool, like.
It's
Derek.
Under the radar move.
All right.
Okay, Devin. I've got Devin with the solid 8.5. He's just got he's shirtless and does a little like bring it on type pose. I think it's a strong move, makes a big splash, but ultimately it reflects the way that he played the game. He just played way too hard at the start, and he's gone.
I have I had Devin as an 8, and then your whole half rankings like blew my mind. So I was gonna give him an 8.5, but now I'm gonna give him a 9.
Wow.
Just like bring it, man. Like no holds barred, ready to go. It was reflective of the way you played. So good for you, Devin. You got a 9.
Okay, Nicole's getting a 7 from me. Simple spin move with a smile. Like Derek, I think it's just an overall simple and effective move.
I gave Nicole a 6. It was a very weak spin. I wasn't convinced that like she's like spun and posed like that before, and just like I don't know if it was like the dress or whatever, but I wasn't convinced of her opening intro. So 6, Nicole. You got some work to do.
How about Jocasta?
I gave her a 7. Like whatever. Like you don't mess with Jocasta. Little finger wag like Dikembe Mutombo. Like 7.
Okay, I've got Jocasta at the 6. I think it's sassy, but
sassy but classy.
Sassy but classy. Not bad, not great. I don't know. Mediocre. Cody, I've got an 8. He does his little kick of the soccer ball and then catches it. And mostly I'm just giving him the 8 because I have to admire the use of the prop.
Yeah, I had that on my notes as well. I also gave him an 8 because he was the only one with the prop.
Yeah, like, you have to respect that. Brittany.
How many takes do you think it took Cody to like be able to kick the ball and catch it? Like
one and done.
One and done?
Yeah.
The one take wonder?
Absolutely. What do you think?
Yeah, like 1 or 2 or 3, but like no more than 3.
Brittany, I have an 8 for her. She does a little like leaning over kiss. I like the move, but it just really was surprising to me after I saw her gameplay because she didn't flirt at all. So, I like the move, but just not indicative of the way she played.
Yeah, I gave her a 9. I thought again that like she was going to be this flirt, but I mean, I wonder if like I don't think they do, but like they tell like them it's like, oh, we're like bringing you in as like this kind of person, and then they try and like act it up. Because I mean, obviously with the opening intros, that's like how they see these people, right?
Yeah, true.
So I don't know.
What do you have for Hayden?
Hayden, I gave a solid 8. Just like a regular surfer dude. Yeah, 8.
All right, I've got a 7 for Hayden. Yeah, surfer dude thing, just totally reflective of his personality, the type of guy he is. Caleb, I gave a 7. All he does is like put his cowboy hat on. I guess he has a prop as well, but
he's a southern gentleman. I gave him an 8.
Okay, like it's tame move from Beast Mode Cowboy. I thought it would have been a little more out there.
What do you want to bring out, like a lasso or something?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. Or if he's gonna use the prop, just go full out on the horse.
Wow.
Horse,
okay.
lasso, and hat. That gets me 10 on my scale. Okay, Christine.
I think she's like gonna be like she like flexed her arm like as if she's gonna be like a strong player. So I don't know. I gave her a 7.
Wow.
Maybe a 6.5. This whole half ranking's really like throwing me off. I'm like reevaluating.
Christine hits a big 3 in my scale. Like she's just trying way too hard, and that's not like a natural move for her at all. Like she looks so awkward doing it.
Man, you're just full of a lot of hate right now, but like you're not suggesting like what would have made it better. Like what would have convinced you to give these people a higher rating?
I don't know, not whatever she did. just
my move would be like I'd stand there and then I'd take off my glasses, clean them with my shirt, and put them back on.
That's a 10. That's a 10.
Huge smile at the camera.
That's a 10.
Like that's all you gotta know. It's just like don't mess with like I got the goggles on for a reason, right? Like I can see clearly now.
I'm interested to hear what your ranking for Victoria is.
I gave her a 7, but I'm gonna move it down to a 6. Just like a pose, like whatever. Like okay, sort of forgettable, like Victoria.
Yeah,
classic Victoria.
That's exactly what I had down. I gave her a 4 because just like in the house, she doesn't really do anything. Like she just stands with her hands on her hips and smirks. Like,
just whines.
Okay. I'm going to leave you with last word for Frankie. I give Frankie a 9. I know you're going to disagree. I love the throwing up the deuces and then doing his little bob dance. So 9 for me, but let's hear you rip on him.
I gave him a 7 because he wasn't just standing there. But, like, the more I think about, like, every time I see the intro, his is the one that pisses me off the most. It comes across as so fake. And, like, I get he's, like, trying to, like, party and dance, whatever, but it's not convincing me at all. Of everybody in the whole list, like, his is the most fake to me. So I gave him a 7, but, like, personally, like, it's like a 3.
Whew. Okay, so your top intro house guest is
Donnie, followed by Amber and Brittany.
Okay, I've got Amber followed by Devin and Frankie, with an honorable mention to Cody.
Who was your worst?
My worst was tied between Joey and Christine, but ultimately I think Christine is the worst.
Derek's was the worst for me.
You just don't appreciate it.
I guess it's too simple.
The simplicity, but effectiveness.
I don't know, man. I need something more.
All right, let's move on to next week's predictions. What do you see transpiring in the Big Brother house?
I hope the exact same thing as this week happens. Just to, like, shove it in production's face. How, like, nobody likes this twist. I hope Frankie wins HOH. I hope he puts up Cody and Victoria. I hope Frankie wins veto. And we'll go from there.
That's, yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Everything happens the same, and I would love to see one of the guys get booted, but I think...
yeah, but I'm thinking now, it's like, I think this is sort of a wake-up call for them, and I think someone's going to make a move this week.
I hope so.
But in the end, I actually hope Final 2 is Frankie versus Derek, because I think they've obviously been the two biggest players this season, and in the end, even though I think Derek would win over Frankie, I think it would be really interesting to see, like, the jury deliberation for them and how they would vote.
Yeah, that would be the most intriguing Final 2 possibility, for sure. Do you have the point recap handy?
I do. So you're up 179 to 146. So mathematically, I'm not out of it yet. I don't think. I'm just guessing in my head. But unless Caleb or Victoria pretty much win, like, every HOH and veto from here on out, and they make it to Final 2 together, then I don't think I'm going to win.
Yeah, if they're at Final 5 now, if one of your people goes home next week, it's done.
Yeah.
For sure, because it's, 15 points for jury, or for Final 4?
Yeah, something like that.
So, I can taste the victory.
It was a good... I'm surprised it lasted this long.
Yeah, it was competitive. It's not done. It's not done.
It's not done.
But
it's almost done.
It's been... just shows our drafting abilities. Drafted even teams.
Yeah. Well, we'll do a draft review, I think, for the finale episode.
Definitely.
But I did a quick recap of it, and we had some spot on. We had some good hits and some swing and misses.
Yes, we'll get into those in a future episode.
So thumbs up if you're looking forward to our draft recap special.
I'm expecting major thumbs up this episode. Not just from the mysterious liker.
Shout out to the mysterious liker.
Well, that's going to do it for us at the B2M2 podcast. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode, even though most of the week's activities in the house were filler, but we did our best to avoid the filler in this episode. So, for Mitchell Machtinger, I'm Michael Hoad, and we'll see you next time for another edition of the B2M2 podcast.